start, everyone. Of course, I'm not in my most grounded space since I've been running around attending to everything today. But I'm going to try my best to ground in now and stay in the present now. And I hope that as you all are listening, you can try your best to offer that to yourselves as well. As you listen, allow the words to come through you. Stay in the moment. Feel into it if it comes, but don't overthink it. Let's just be here and be present. And I'll be sharing some ideas, and I'm imagining many of you will have lots to share and relate to on this. So we will have time at the end for weaving discussion, and I'll try not to say "and" too many times. So I am talking about reactivity and regulation, and especially thinking about this in terms of relationships. What I'm talking about is our nervous systems, our fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and how that works with us as we are trying to resolve conflicts. I feel like this is something that's coming to the surface a lot as a lot of people are doing the work, are understanding their projections and wanting to use the authentic relating skills and connect to others, yet our nervous systems are lagging behind in many ways. And it's important that we understand this about ourselves, because we are animals. We have physiological systems, and how can we work with this to help it to all be in an aligned space where we can be our best selves. Our bodies, when they get activated, it's not that something's broken. Our body is meant to do that. We are meant to have reactions that come up in us. We are meant to, when we are in the forest and a large animal pounces, we're meant to have a reaction. We are meant for our amygdala to start shooting off fear response, strong fear, letting us know to set up our bodies in different ways, which I'm not going to go into all of that. It's not really my area, but understand the prefrontal cortex is starting to shut down in that process, and that is by design. The prefrontal cortex, I'm sure you all know, it's about thinking, reasoning. It's the part of our brain that develops into adulthood that they say is being an adult. And so when we are in a reactive space, that is going to shut down. It's going to shut down because if you are out running through the forest and an animal is coming after you, you need to think safe, unsafe, good, bad, left or right. You don't have the capacity in that time by design to think about nuance, think about, but that time I saw a tiger and he did this, and that time you don't have that. So this is an incredibly important part of the brain, that it does this, that it works in this way to move us into a consciousness space to allow us to navigate danger, especially physical danger, to get out and keep us safe, to keep us alive. So beautiful. Thank you, nervous system. But the problem is when it shows up with relational issues, with other things, and we are, not really knowing what's happening. So it's not a moral failing, it's a physiological response. But the more that we can understand it in ourselves and understand how to work with our somatic body, we can start to move through it. The main nervous system responses are fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. The freeze and fawn tend to develop in situations where we can't escape. So, many of us talk about, chronic trauma in childhood, whatever, to, many different degrees, but, or acute trauma as well, you're going to often have to do the freeze or fawn. And the thing is, we also just use these in life all the time. And fawn is so encouraged by society that we often don't even realize we're doing it, because the fawn response can become what we call people pleasing. If you have that triggered feeling of a little anxiety, and your automatic reaction is, how do I keep the person that's a threat safe? You're going to shift yourself, shift your words in a way that's going to keep their nervous system safe. And this is an automatic response. That fawn response is like, it's like a hiccup, you know? So the more we can see this, we can start to say, okay, is this truly me? Because the thing is, the more that fawn response comes on, the more then you become accustomed to it and don't even see it. You're doing it and you just think, this is how I am. And, you know, it's very tricky to uncouple identity from trauma, from nervous system stuff, but it's just a piece to look at and to feel into. You know, freeze can be many different things. It can be short, it can be long, and it can often be in a dissociative place. You know, many of us who maybe as children really good at looking out the window in class, kind of going away, you know, it is a state of freeze when we're just sort of shutting ourselves down, often dissociating, and it can go into, you know, much stronger dissociative states, or it can also, frequently the freeze response can then be a disassociation into another trauma response, quite frequently like into the people pleasing. That, you know, so that there is an initial freeze and then it transitions into one of the others. Yes, so then fight and flight. You know, fight can be, you know, we kind of understand that one, just many different ways that we're going to aggressively, you know, be using force with somebody, either with our words or our timing or our body or, you know, all of these things. Flight is so many things, but some of the ones that have been more interesting to me that are a little outside of what I had heard is like thinking about speaking fast as a form of flight, which I certainly can fall into, and I should try to speak more slowly, you know. And so for many of us, our voice, as we start to get nervous, our voice speeds up. We're taking up less space. We want to just push through it. It's a subtle flight. Also things like, you know, drugs, alcohol, working a lot, anything that you can throw yourself into can do that. Okay. So the ways that these things show up in relationships, I mean, I'm sure as I'm speaking about it, you all are probably already starting to think, oh God, yeah, I do that or that, you know, is that when there's a conflict, each person is going to have their initial reactive space. There's going to have that moment of, not always, but, you know, sometimes this obviously happens in conflicts, that a moment of the amygdala shooting off, the prefrontal cortex coming down, and one of these fight, flight, freeze fawns can often be what's happening. So if you're somebody who goes into a fight response, the things that you're saying aren't even really what you probably believe sometimes. Your prefrontal cortex is not functioning fully, so you aren't able to fully reason. You're in that mind space of safe, unsafe, good, bad. And when you're having that with another person, it can be very easy to move into I'm good, they're bad, or they're good, I'm bad. You know, we've all had those moments like when you're depressed sometimes maybe, and you're just like, everything is bad, I'm the worst. And it's like, you can kind of start pulling out and be like, wait a minute, I really don't think like I'm the worst person. But in that, but like in that space, sometimes you can hear your words in your head, you know, like, and just to be in that black and white thinking, because the prefrontal cortex isn't fully functioning. It's just not online. So, you know, it's just like I was saying that the fawn response can become our identity. Also, the fight can, you know, and it can be a part where you just think, I need to speak up for myself, you know, so you're not seeing it as a trauma response, reactive state, sometimes more into a space of like, this is who I am. I need to assert myself, you know, and if society has told you this is who you are, you're the person who asserts themselves, it can become a feedback loop that can keep you really locked in. So these patterns can solidify over time, and can also be very laden with projections. The data we've collected from what life has shown us before is going to be input into our minds that are schema-making machines, and by nature is going to use that to project what might happen in the future. This is not a flaw of any of us. This is by design. Just in the same way, I can say, well, if it's raining, I'm likely to get a raindrop on my head. It's very similar. The problem is that, you know, we can get really caught up in those projections as something that we need to hold. Perhaps we've spoken that for so long, we've seen in that way for so long, and separating from it can feel scary, especially if separating from it means we need to acknowledge some embarrassment or things like that are underneath. Freeze in conflicts can just be so hard to see sometimes. It's like, it can be like a silent, just haze that comes over you, and you can't find your words very often. And it can be really frustrating. It can be frustrating for both people, especially if you don't understand why you're going into this, and you're just like, why can't I, they're speaking so well, why can't I say what I want to say? But your prefrontal cortex is not functioning in its full capacity in that space. You can move through, this is kind of wild side fun fact, but like you can move through the freeze state into a full dissociative state. And apparently in that place, like the prefrontal cortex then flips and starts being more online, and the amygdala starts going down, that if you dissociate so far out of the freeze that it's like you can't even feel the fear, that you're dissociated from your emotional body. And then the last one, the way we show up in relationships is in the fawn, and it's so hard because this one, if you are a person who fawns and people pleases, everybody's probably like, they're great. And like all of us do it sometimes, but like, you're not going to be having problems. So life's telling you like, this is good, like do this thing. And so it's, it's like polite. And there's times when we are doing it that don't feel authentic. There's times, of course, we all like to be nice sometimes, but like, then there's times when we're doing it reflexively and not realizing. And that's by great design. If you were, being attacked and you need what do? You're going to regulate the nervous system of the attacker. It's a strategy. If fight flight doesn't work, freeze didn't work, they're on you, you need to, what are you going to do? Good kitty, or you know what I mean? Or like, find a way to give it a bone, to try to make nice, to attend to their nervous system first. So that can be really hard too, because it can come off as actually being super skillful in conflict resolution at times. Because if you are able to, when your partner asks you for something or shares something that bothered them, if you are able to just say, sure, oh, I totally get it, I'm so sorry, the problem is gone, and it's like, there is a time and a place for someone dealing with it like that, if that's authentically where you are. But if you're saying, no big deal, everything's fine, but inside you're feeling something different, it's gonna create conflict. I mean, so all of these things all can create conflict. And when they bump up against each other in the different ways, whoa, it's just, but we think of ourselves as, that I'm functioning in all of these times. I was just being so strategic in the way that I spoke to them, or I was standing up for myself because I need to assert myself. And I've been taught that, I was staying quiet and I didn't say anything, or a flight, which we didn't talk about, or just I left and I took a break. I'm giving them space, and they can at times all of those things can be good. And at other times we can feel inside of us ways that they are not us speaking our truth. So how to heal this in ourselves? There's a lot of things, and I'm not going to go into too much on nervous system regulation. There's much online with that, but there's lots of different activities that you can do, ways to work with yourself. And also some important ones are just really, caring for yourself, self-love. I just always like to mention that because I think that the physical forms of self-love are so underrated. And we think about, how do I love myself? And it's like this, like, what does that even mean? I'm supposed to just love the parts I don't like. Okay. Yes. And that's part of it. But also, how do we manifest it in our day-to-day lives? How do we care for ourselves, get the right amount of rest, the food, just taking care of ourselves, loving, exercising when we need to. And that stuff is so basic and boring, and we all want it to be something super complicated, but doing those things, are gonna really help with healing your nervous system. It just is. It's not fun, it's not sexy, but it's real. And then of course working with these parts, noticing them in yourself and perhaps getting into a deeper space of when did this evolve in me, and what is that part, and how did that part serve me so well so long in my life, and now it's no longer, it's not helping, or I need to see it more and be able to work with it as an ally, as a tool, but not just something that I'm going to fall into. It's not easy though. So just some ideas as in working through conflicts, knowing these parts of ourselves, is to really be mindful as we enter into dynamics. Are we in slow down space before we bring up a conflict? Where are we? Where is our partner? And it's not our job to regulate other people's nervous systems. And if we're in this together, we can notice each other. And because sometimes one person can't see it. Sometimes you're in a freeze. You don't even realize you're in some kind of dissociated state, and you're just not even sure that it's happening. So notice that, co-regulating, creating safety and connection before starting difficult conversations, through things like a hug, a smile, a soft gaze. Because what we're trying to do is say to my nervous system, I'm safe. Our nervous system is going to, by design, move into reactive state when we're feeling fear. And in relationships, there is often that fear of abandonment. We want that relationship to work. And so when that activates, we have to just be aware that these pieces might come on. So how do we just work with this in the best way to show my body I'm safe? Look behind, look into people's eyes, just feeling the softness. Committing to an intention to try to understand and repair, before moving into it. Because it's often when we're moving into something, when you're working with a conflict, you might already be a little dysregulated. And when you are a little dysregulated, your prefrontal cortex does not have that full capacity to say, oh, what am I supposed to be doing? Oh, I remember this thing I read last week. It's just hard to access that type of memory in that space. So the more you can make that a conscious thing. Understanding our triggers and what each perceives as threat. Something is going to feel like a threat to me that might not feel a threat to you. We all have different things, and sometimes it's just a certain feeling, a feeling of embarrassment, or some kind of not good enough. They can all come up, and so the more that this can be understood and worked with prior, noticing the signs of dysregulation as it's happening: tightness, shallow breath, urge to flee, fight, or freeze. And a big part of doing the somatic work is just even noticing in ourselves. It's not even always about then changing it. It's more so just seeing the pattern as it emerges, seeing it in the moment, and just sitting with it. And I feel like so many of us have been trained to, when you have a feeling, you're feeling something come through, think about what it is. And there is certainly, it's a good idea to name your feelings when it seems available. And at times, trying to utilize cognitive skills when we're feeling sad is going to actually just loop us. Because like I was saying, that black or white, good, bad, safe, unsafe thinking is going to make it hard to really understand why you're upset. It's probably not just because you're the worst person ever in the world to exist, but your brain might tell you that from that activated space. So noticing where you're having tension. So even in this moment here, we want to just start to think about what our bodies feel like, doing a little scanning, and noticing if there's any areas of tightness. And it's hard to bring this in when conflict is already there. So the more that we can do it in our everyday lives and just check in, put a hand in that place. As it's coming up in the conflict, it gives you a chance to acknowledge it in yourself, and noticing when you're at capacity, noticing when the tightness is too much, noticing when you're not speaking in the way that you want, whether it's too much or too little, or just having a feeling of overwhelm. And the sooner we can notice when we are at capacity and tell that to our partner, it gives us the opportunity to not move into a space where we're saying things we don't mean, to not moving into a space where we're unable to speak, and to pendulate. So we don't have to drop it, but we need to take a moment to reconnect into something safe, whether that's just stopping talking, looking at something comfortable, going back to some co-regulation, going back to self-regulation, leaving the room, and knowing that since you stopped before it got to a place where you were beyond capacity, it increases your likelihood of finding space to repair. Because you didn't just say that thing that was a not nice thing, or, you know, whatever. So it's that pendulation, the noticing, the taking the moment to ground. So back to finding that tension. And let's just take a moment here to go through noticing that tension, wherever it is, the tightness, giving it a little rub. So a lot of somatic awareness is just about having the awareness, not always changing it, but hearing what our body's communicating. And it might not be words, and that's okay. It might not be a full idea. That's great. Just being with it. And then taking a moment to look around and find something or someone that when you stare at it, it gives you a feeling of peace. And feeling where in your body is that peace? Where do you feel the lightness? So there's some parts of your body that are not tense. You can find those parts and rub them. Just reminding yourself that you have a body, that you're here, that you don't need to allow the reactivity to move you into a space to run from a lion, because this isn't a lion. This is your partner in front of you. And they want to work this out. So as you work with this, you know, I think it's important to meet these patterns in yourself with compassion. It's hard work. It's hard work to say, oh, that thing that I did that I thought was just me is actually like, it's a, you know, it's a trauma response. It's something in my nervous system. And it's scary because you can be like, oh my God, how many times have I been doing this? I've been doing this my whole life, whatever. But, you know, it's a part that kept us safe. It's a part that was doing what it was meant to do at that time. And by not looking at it, we're strengthening it. By looking at it, by feeling it when it comes up, it's the tightness. We're, you know, helping that's probably some inner child version of ourselves and helping it to be seen and felt. And something that this talk really came to me through having discussions with people around these things. And it's something that I think is a really great part of being human, is that there's all these other people doing human at the same time. And sometimes the way that they're doing human is similar or different or reflection, and can really help to be a mirror, to see yourself, to see them, they're doing the thing that's similar, and then to see yourself, and then you get to go back and forth and just create a mirror. But, huge caveat, this is not the type of work that should be done without a discernment of who you're sharing with. This is something that when you allow somebody to be a mirror to you, you are trusting that the way that they're reflecting back at you is to the best of their accuracy, is in a loving way. And there's a lot of people out there that like to speak about, their space holders, or, just different, people that have a lot of identity around that. And many people are good. I mean, I'm myself amongst one of them, and I'm great. But some red flags to look out for when you are sharing with people are when there's a lot of giving advice and telling, when you're not feeling heard in the conversation. If you have that little inkling of, this person doesn't actually want the best for me, and that's just a thing to notice. It doesn't mean I'm not going to be friends with that person. It just means, is this truly a space that's a safe container for me to be processing this aspect of myself? Because these are sensitive parts. These pieces around our nervous system, and they're things that we're bringing them out to the light, and we've been hiding them, putting them down for a long time. So as they come and meet the light, being met by gentle, sensitive ears and words that can help to reflect back and further your understanding and help you feel seen and heard are very important. So I think I'm landing this ship here. Thank you all for listening. It was really fun to share. And so now I would love to open up the floor to the group. We can kind of just do popcorn style if anybody has any thoughts, reflections, ideas. As far as sharing personal pieces, I would say let's not go into detail to too much extent, because as I was saying, we need to be discerning about where we're sharing. But little tidbits of just, hey, we're all human, are very welcome. Thank you. Who wants to start? You can also just be like, oh my God, Leah, that was such a good talk.
That was great. That was great.